Hello everyone, welcome back to Baba channel. Can't deny the arrival of Marvel's Loki on Disney Plus is maybe the biggest expansion of the MCU. Because in series Loki, Marvel will play about the time dimension, which is regarded as being able to expand the universe further. The main setting of Loki is the time variance authority that created by the Timekeepers to guard the one true sacred timeline. For today, we will get to everyone to know about Timekeepers, the guardians of the time reality. The Timekeepers were created by He Who Remains, the final director of the Time Variance Authority, at the Citadel at the end of time, the last reality of the multiverse. He Who Remains was created time twisters before the heat death of that universe, with the plan was for the beings to survive the end and travel into the next universal cycle with knowledge of the past to improve the future. However, the time twisters were born flawed and instead began to travel backwards through time to reach the beginning. The time twisters spiraled back through time, interacting with planet, and every time they did, they left the planet destroyed as they continued their way backwards. The cycle continues like this until Arthur's heir Thor, also known as the Tomorrow Man, who observed the destruction of Earth in the 80th century. In order to prevent the destruction of the planet, Zerko traveled back to the 20th century and recruited Thor, Jane Foster, and the Warriors 3 to help stop the time twisters. Thor and his gang tried to thwart the time twisters, trying to negotiate until a fight broke out, and even Thor with Mjolnir was unable to fight. After the fight, the twisters destroyed the world. With no other alternatives, Thor and Zerko traveled to the end of all realities to meet He Who Remains, the time twisters' creator. Once there, they found him caring after their birthing pods of time twisters. They attempted to persuade him of the twisters' destructive nature. Despite not being convinced at first, but he saw the danger posed by his creator and killed the time twisters before they hatched. At this point, two different realities spawned. One in Earth-794282. In this reality, He Who Remains created the new Timekeepers after the death of the Time Twisters, a more perfect version of his initial desire, with hopefully Timekeepers will help protect time. And in Earth-761243, that reality, the Time Twisters continued to live. And that's the origin of Timekeepers. The Timekeepers' first known interaction with the Prime Marvel Universe or Earth-616 was their attempts to break up the Avengers. The story began with Immortus, which at that time, he was recruited by Timekeepers to monitor time between 3000 BC and 4000 AD. His primary objective was to untangle the temporal disturbances caused by his own self. Because he has always been involved in the events of various periods and make many events a mess. While the Timekeepers usually demanded swift elimination of any threats to the timeline, Immortus avoided violence or killing whenever possible and instead chose manipulation and trickery whenever possible to manipulate events in a more desirable direction. The first situation wherein the Timekeepers' wishes were not followed was when it was determined that the Scarlet Witch was considered a Nexus being in at least one reality. Her children would become a threat to the timeline. While the Timekeepers asked Immortus to kill her outright, he decided more subtler means were required. Immortus had stated in one account that he intended to manipulate events in order to take control of the Scarlet Witch and use her probability-altering hex powers to manipulate all time that was under his custodianship. But actually the story turned out to be time twisters disguising themselves as the Timekeepers, which their goals remain the same, that is, destroy a multitude of alternate realities. They tried to using Immortus as their pawn to absorb the energy of the Scarlet Witch. The Timekeepers discovered 4 alternate realities, each with their own Nexus being, which could diminish the power of the Twisters. The first reality was home to the Fantastic Five on Earth-772, that having Nexus being, Franklin Richards. They recruited Dr. Doom to kill the Nexus being. However, Immortus began to work against the Twisters by taking on the identity of the Whisperer and was able to turn Dr. Doom against the Keepers and save Franklin. They next tried to destroy the Ultravision of Earth-90110, and were ultimately successful. Immortus recruited Iron Droid against them but not successful. They then tried to kill Jean Grey of Earth-9250, where Wolverine was the Lord of Vampires. They were again stopped by the Whisperer's interference and one of the Twisters faded from existence. During their final attempt on a Nexus being, Odin of Earth-794282, the final one faded away when their attempt was ultimately stopped. After he was defeated, the Time Twisters was reformed, but the real Timekeepers arrived and revealed the origins of their creation and the deception of the Twisters. The Twisters returned to their birthing cocoons and the Keepers returned them to their citadel at the end of time and vowed to watch over the Twisters and ensure they would never hatch again. Later, they authorized the installation of the Watcher's dimensional portal that allowed him to view other realities, but threatened to confiscate it if the Watcher did not fix the divergences caused by different universes' living lasers. The Timekeepers returned to Immortus and warned him of humanity's dominance and instructed him to kill Rick Jones to prevent the Destiny Force from awakening in all of humanity. In his attempt, the Destiny Force came to Rick and assisted him by calling forth Avengers from different time periods to defend him. These Avengers were eventually brought to the Timekeepers, who revealed their plan that wipe out the minimum number of timelines to weaken humanity and preserve themselves. They attempted to use the Forever Crystal combined with a Chrono Cannon to accomplish this and remove Immortus from existence and remove Kang by forcing his transformation into Immortus. To defend themselves, the Timekeepers summoned multiple evil Avengers from across time to oppose the Avengers. However, Rick Jones summoned more good Avengers to help. Kang was able to resist the Timekeepers' transformation long enough to split himself into a Kang and an Immortus. Rick Jones was finally able to destroy their weapon with the Destiny Force, and Kang seemingly destroyed the Timekeepers.